What is going on, my broskies? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and we got some crazy stuff here today. Of course, the Kizuna Clash is live, so I'm trying to get that done, and then we also have the data download here for the brand new batch of characters that we all know is coming with Jewelry Bonnie. We have the big boy himself, Saint, Jay Garcia, Saturn, and the bunch of new rare recruits as well. So we're going to talk about these new rare recruits and kind of discuss and see how good they are, and they've got some very, very interesting abilities, so we'll kind of discuss that as well. We also have like the Sugo Fest structure as well. One thing that is interesting is that the Sugo Fest you see here on part 1, if you go all the way to the 30th step of part 1, it doesn't mention that you get Bonnie or Saturn guaranteed. You only get the guaranteed unit if you pull on their specific part. So remember how these work. Part 1, all of the new batches on here, but none of them are guaranteed. If you move on to part 2, this is where Bonnie is not available, but Saturn is available. And if you go all the way to the max step, you do get Super Sugo Fest only Saint Saturn guaranteed. And then if you go on part 3, Saturn is not available and only Bonnie is available out of the new units in terms of the new legends. And then Bonnie is guaranteed on the 30th step. It is confirmed, by the way, Bonnie is a normal legend. Saturn is a Super Sugo Fest exclusive. So that was all, pretty much understood. Everyone already knew that. Now, in terms of the rare recruits, we have Vice Admiral Dole, which is awesome. I love this character. This character is so cool. Just love the aesthetic of this character, and very, very interesting abilities, which we'll talk about. We also have Bluegrass, which is another one of the new Vice Admirals that was introduced during Egghead. Cool to see some representation for this unit as well. And then, of course, we have Jewelry Bonnie. Because we now have the information in-game, like we can just view all of the effects in totality. Nothing really too noteworthy to talk about in terms of Bonnie's effects, so that's interesting, I guess. And then we have Saint J. Garcia Saturn. Have a look at this animation right here that plays. So this is the new motion effect for this guy. It looks absolutely phenomenal. I love these motion artworks so much. I really hope we get more of them in the future. It looks so sick, dude. So when you pull the character for the first time, if you end up getting him in the Sugo Fest, that animation plays when his poster pops up, which is so sick. So this guy, he's got the Rush Sugo Special, of course. The Rush Sugo Special is a very, very strong effect, very similar to the 10th anniversary Rush Sugo specials, where you can use it as the first tap in the chain to give a buff to all of your int driven or strikers, or if you have all of your effects activated, you could use him as the final tap in the chain. One thing to note as well is that it is 100% confirmed. You can see it right here. I want to get it so you guys can see it. If 4 or more 5 Elders, Celestial Dragon, or Navy characters are on the crew, and you have an attack boost with 10x value or more, this character's normal attacks are super effective against all types. So it's not what I initially thought it was going to be in regards to the advantageous class effect type of effect. The translation was just really, really choppy, so it is confirmed that he can get super effective damage, which in turn makes this Rush Sugo special, where he is the last character to attack in the chain, be super effective. He gets like a massive damage increase. It makes that all the more valuable, which I think is really, really cool. So that's neat. So he just does a ton of damage. We all know and love that. That's dope. You have a look at the sprite of him as well. The actual animation of his sprite looks really, really good. So let's go ahead and talk about these rare recruits. I mean, I'm excited for J. Garcia Saturn. I know that not everyone has the same thinking as me. I actually really want to get this guy. He just seems like a bunch of fun to use, and because it's the first representation of this character in Treasure Cruise, which is just another, and just adds that that uniqueness to the character. Let's start things off with Vice Admiral Dole, who is an int fighter cerebral. So note, this character is not a striker. I just want to point that out before we talk about the rumble abilities, okay? So this character is an int fighter cerebral. Captain ability doesn't really matter all that much. You heal the crew by 1100 HP at the end of the turn. That's a really, really odd effect to have. Now, one thing to note before we talk about the special, this character does have double special launch. So let's talk about that special though. So the special ability will reduce the duration of all enemy barriers by 1 turn, reduces paralysis by 3 turns, applies a 15% int side dex resistance down for 1 turn, and then if you have 3 or more Navy or World Government characters, or you have 6 or more Egghead characters on the crew, It allows your crew's attack boost to be further increased up to 2 times, and it also reduces your special charge time by 1 turn. So the fact that you have to think, right, that this character has double special launch, meaning that all of these values that you see are essentially doubled. So it's, you know, remove 2 turns of barrier, it's remove 6 turns of paralysis, 30% int psi dex resistance down. The attack buff is whatever, but then it's 2 turns of cooldown. So I really like that about the unit, the fact that you can get like really decent damage via the resistance down, and then the cooldown, and then the paralysis removal, the barrier removal, which like barrier removal is a pretty rare effect, and especially like we don't see too many 3-turn removals. 2-turn removals are pretty rare. 1-turn removals, you know, you'll see them every now and again. So I just like that. And then in terms of the crewmate abilities, the character also resists special reverse, so you can use her to, you know, get around that type of ability. Unfortunately, she doesn't have fear resistance, which would have been a neat effect to have, you know, in combination with all of those abilities. And then in terms of the tags, Navy, Navy Vice Admiral, and Egghead. And the support effect of this character is kind of interesting as well. It mentions that this character only attaches to to the supported units that have the Navy Vice Admiral tag. So it's very niche. This is the first type of support that we've seen in the game that does this. The support attaches to any Navy Vice Admiral, and it says that once per quest, if the character uses a special, remove 2 turns of paralysis. Pretty good support effect, but considering how restrictive it is, it's going to be hard to use on a lot of teams. And let's talk about the Rumble, because once again, want to reiterate, this character is not a striker character, okay? Have a look at this Rumble ability. Striker class teammates attack up level 7, defense level 5, guard percent up level 5, but then gives herself level 7 attack, level 5 defense, level 5 guard, and your Egghead teammates also level 4 defense. The way that this reads, like, to me, seems like they want you to use this character with Saint J. Garcia Saturn just to give him striker related buffs, despite the fact that this character isn't a striker. You gotta remember that J. Garcia Saturn, in his abilities, you need to have 6 or more strikers on your crew in order for all of his effects to fully activate. So the fact that this character isn't a striker is just a huge missed opportunity. I really hate that. This character just should have been fighter striker, honestly. Probably would have been a little bit of a better unit. So the fact that this character isn't a striker really hurts. Let's have a look at this special though. It gives your Egghead teammates a level 3 shield. It targets 3 enemies for 2.2 times damage. It then targets Psi-type slasher class enemies for 3 times damage, and then targets fighter and slasher class enemies for 2 times damage. Very odd special. Very, very odd special. But it's okay, like, does decent damage. Of course, it is a generic rare recruit at the end of the day, so you're going to be able to, like, secure dupes of this character as time moves on. So, you know, you'll probably find yourself in a situation where you'll have this character with max level limit break, and investing the materials to get them to 150, rainbow them out. This character is actually going to do pretty solid damage, but at the end of the day, not too many people are going to invest in a generic rare recruit because I just don't think this character is that great to begin with, so that really does hurt. However, this character is a 20 cost character, so having a 20 cost character that can do that type of damage could actually be pretty valuable, right? So that's Vice Admiral Doll, pretty decent rare recruit overall. But then we have Bluegrass, which is the first representation of this character in the game. So let's go ahead and have a look and see what this character is doing. So this character is a Dex shooter driven, once again, not a striker character. And then this character's captain ability doesn't really matter. They do have Barrier Pierce, which is a really cool effect, but it's only if your health is 50% or above, which really, really hurts. And then the special ability, it will go ahead and reduce all enemies' defense up by 6 turns, which is good. It does 60 times their attack and dex damage to all enemies at the end of the turn for 3 turns, which is also pretty neat, allowing you to get around enemy resilience buffs. It also changes all of your crew slots, including block, into tandem. And then if 3 or more Navy or World Government characters, or you have 6 or more Eggheads on the crew, it will boost your slot effects by 2.5 times for 3 turns, and that's a Rainbow Orb boost as well. Allows this effect to be further increased 2 times. It then also says it reduces your special bind by 6 turns, and if the crew has no slot effect boost, then it boosts your crew slots by 2.25 for 3 turns. Okay, so at a bare minimum, you're still getting an orb boost, but one thing that I am unsure about is, do you need the tags present on the crew to get the special bind removal? Or, because if you don't need the tags for the special bind removal, I think this character is godly. If you need the tags on the crew for the special bind removal, that's going to hurt. we'll have to wait and see in terms of how that actually works. In terms of crewmate abilities here, once again, removing special bind, which allows this character to get rid of that debuff. They don't have fear resistance once again, which could hurt in the future. And then also says cannot be blown away by attack, which is quite good, and makes shooter and driven characters bomb and super bomb matching. Very, very odd ability for this character, but cool. We'll take it, right? Very similar to Vice Admiral Dole, it only attaches their support only to another Vice Admiral, and once per quest, if you use the special, remove defense up by 2 turns. Absolutely phenomenal support. Again, very same issue with Dole. Great support, but very restricted in terms of who you can actually use it on, so obviously major issue there. And then in terms of the Rumble, once again, very similar to Vice Admiral Dole, buffing strikers despite the fact that this character isn't a striker character, giving them 5 defense, level 3 special CT increase, which is quite good, level 5 HP, then gives themselves 5 defense, level 3 special CT, level 5 HP, and your egghead teammates get level 7 attack. Pretty honestly, if you run Dole and this character with, you know, some striker units, like, it's a pretty crazy set of buffs to the striker class, all things considered. Honestly, it's pretty good. And then the special ability here, 25 CT, targets 3 high defense enemies for defense down level 5, targets, not including self, 2 egghead teammates with low CT for a 20% reduction, and then side type slasher enemies get level 8 attack down, level 8 speed down. Don't like the special ability all that much, but the rumble abilities of both this character and Dole, if you are running a striker team for whatever reason, could actually work quite well, because they are pretty good. But the problem is using them on a striker team, the fact that they themselves are not striker, is just so odd. Very, very weird design. I'm not the biggest fan of that, all things considered, but that's the new Sugo Fest. Now, once we get the official news in-game in regards to who's boosted on what part of the Sugo Fest, we're going to make a separate video discussing that to you guys, so you know exactly what to expect moving forward when this Sugo Fest does drop. Remember that it is the 29th of May as when this Sugo Fest drops on part 1. We also have part 2, which drops the day after that, I believe. We can click the event information, May 29th. Then we have May 30th for part 2. And then May 31st for part 3. So this is a bit different from the first part of the celebration, where we had part 1 on day 1, and then day 2, all the other parts came up. This one, you have to wait sequential days, but I think personally speaking, and just looking at face value, what we can see on this banner artwork, I'm going to be waiting for part 2 because I don't have Luffy and Lucci, and I am more excited to pull for Saturn. So I am definitely going to be pulling on part 2. That's where I'm investing my rainbow gems for this part of the 11th anniversary. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for me for this one. If there is any more crazy info that came with this data download that I can't see at the moment, I'll probably make a separate video when I wake up tomorrow. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video today. You got all that info for the new batch. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the new content, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. And that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.